By following along with these videos, you are quickly going to know more than most personal trainers about how to train effectively. We're going to slow down and take our time so that we genuinely understand the basics that lay the foundation for good training. To start off, we're looking at all things muscle hypertrophy or muscle growth. In the previous video, we briefly introduced the topic and why muscle growth is good for health and longevity, in addition to more fitness-specific goals like aesthetics or performance. Today, we look at the two most important concepts for muscle growth: mechanical tension and protein synthesis. We're going to break it down so that you understand the essential points that will help you work out smarter. Welcome to Lifted Pages, a book and fitness club that's exploring the big question of what makes for a good life throughout 2025. And on the fitness side of things, for the first chunk of the year, we're looking at all things muscle hypertrophy. If you're new here and want to learn more about Lifted Pages, check out the description below. There are really only a handful of key concepts that if you understand and you understand how to use them effectively to make your workout related decisions, you will have a better understanding than most personal trainers. The reason I say this is that I've been fortunate enough to do numerous different personal training certifications over the years. So I've seen the type of content most organizations use and is missing out on some really key practical points. Points like what we're talking about today: mechanical tension and protein synthesis. First, we're going to briefly explain what happens, how mechanical tension causes a series of events in your muscles that results in the muscle growing. Then we'll talk briefly about how understanding that can be made practical through workout strategies and nutrition strategies. We'll talk about the basics of these points today, and in the future, we'll get into more detail. When you first start working out, you will get stronger quite quickly, and a big part of that is neural adaptations. You basically learn the skill of the movement patterns, making you better at them: squatting, pressing, etc. And your body learns how to recruit more of the muscle you already have and send nerve signals more effectively. Basically, your body's figuring out how to respond to the activity you're doing, and the body, being the amazing thing that it is, gets your brain and muscles talking to each other through your central and peripheral nervous systems. Then, over time, you will actually build more muscle. That's what we're talking about here: muscle hypertrophy, which just means muscle growth. Hypertrophy is the enlargement of an organ or tissue from the increase in the size of its cells. Hyperplasia is the increase in number of cells. So we're talking about making the muscle cells bigger. And this is basically how it works. There's nuance to this we'll cover in the future. Mechanical tension isn't the only thing that contributes to muscle growth, but understanding this is the most important thing to understand when it comes to muscle hypertrophy. When you work out and you do resistance training, your muscles have to generate force to overcome the resistance of the weight you're lifting. So the gravitational force downward of the weight you're lifting, your muscles have to produce a force greater than in order to lift the weight up. If your muscles can't, the weight just won't move. This force that your muscles have to produce creates mechanical tension within the muscle fibers. Basically, the weight is trying to go down because of gravity, and since you're holding the weight or it's on your body in some way, it's trying to lengthen and stretch the muscle downward, and you resisting against it creates tension in the muscle we call mechanical tension. In the muscles, there are these things that are called mechanosensors. They do exactly what it sounds like. They sense the mechanical tension. They sense the duration and the magnitude of mechanical tension. This is really important to remember. So you lift weights, and that causes mechanical tension in the muscle. The muscle senses the duration you put tension on the muscle and the magnitude or intensity you put on the muscle. Basically, how heavy, how hard, and for how long. Those mechanosensors then kick off a process called protein synthesis. I'm going to oversimplify this quite a bit because I don't think it's really all that important right now to know the specific things going on inside the cell. What you need to know to get a basic understanding is that the mechanosensors tell the cell to make more muscle proteins. The cell then gathers the resources to do so, which are amino acids. They use these amino acids to build the right kind of muscle proteins and then transport them where they need to go. That's basically it. This is the process of muscle protein synthesis. There's a couple things to highlight here. First is that the cell gathers the resources. That means there needs to be resources available, which are these amino acids. This is where eating protein comes in. We need to eat enough protein to provide enough resources for the cell to make these muscle proteins. Now, there's a bunch of nuance we're skipping over here, such as how hormones can impact the rate at which the cell is able to perform these tasks, which is what testosterone and different things do. But this is so important to really understand. Mechanical tension on the muscle allows the muscle to sense how long and to what intensity the muscle is being stressed, and that largely determines how much muscle protein the muscle cells will create, which then over time will determine how much muscle grows. That, in a nutshell, is muscle hypertrophy. That is why trainers and folks in the exercise science will tell you to control the eccentric or the return phase of an exercise. If I do a bicep curl up, I don't want to just let go on the way down if my goal is muscle hypertrophy. You can likely guess why. By controlling the negative, I am putting more tension on the muscle for a longer duration, which will activate mechanosensors, kicking off muscle protein synthesis, and so on. This explains why using wraps can make really good sense. If my goal is to grow my back muscles and my grip gives out when I'm doing lat pull downs, straps will let me do more repetitions, putting more tension on my muscles, which activates mechanosensors, and so on. We'll talk more about this in the future, but this explains why we want to position ourselves to be able to have tension on the muscle in a stretched position. Evidence suggests that this really helps activate the mechanosensors and therefore muscle protein synthesis. If you live in Creston and you see me work out at the gym here, you'll notice when I do leg extensions or leg curls, I put an extra pad on the leg rests, and that's so I can get a greater stretch in the target muscles during those exercises. We'll talk a lot more about the practical aspects of this, but try to get this to sink in. It's so crucial to understand, and it can help you filter out so much of the poor advice and information online. Working out puts tension on the muscle. The muscle senses how much tension and for how long. This then tells the muscle to produce muscle proteins. Those proteins then go and repair and add to the muscle cells, making them bigger, achieving muscle hypertrophy. This is a foundational and often overlooked aspect of working out that is so critical to understand. In upcoming videos, we'll dive a bit deeper into the nuance of this and expand on how you can put it into practice. Let me know what would help you best understand. Be that taking you through my workouts and explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it relates to this, by doing more lecture style like this, or a mix of both. There's also still time to join the Lifted Pages free online book and fitness club on Discord. The book club starts on January 13th, and the books we're reading are pretty short, and the schedule isn't too demanding throughout January, so there's still time to join and catch up once you have the books. If you don't really want to participate in the book club part, I did make a separate fitness channel in Discord, but the announcements and all of that will be for both the book club part and the fitness part. I hope this helped, and if you're still not quite sure about mechanical tension and protein synthesis, let me know, and I can try to explain it in a bit of a different way. Thanks for listening. Talk with you next time.